Peace be with you. As we gather on this Sunday morning, we hope that this will be a peaceful week ahead as we prepare for Christmas, the birth of the Prince of Peace. We've been reflecting the past few weeks, how do you have more peace in your life, in your mind, in your heart, among those around us, with the world? We've been using the Hebrew word for peace, which is shalom, which doesn't just mean an absence of war or fighting or conflict, but kind of speaks about a wholeness, a completeness, things working in harmony for us individually, our mind, body, and soul, our relationships in our families and with our friends, our neighbors, between nations. 2 weeks ago, we talked about why is it so difficult to have peace between strangers, those who are different from us? Why are we so tempted to push them away or fight with them? Why is there war on earth between nations? When can we beat our swords in the plowshares? And then last week we reflected, how can we have more peace between us and those who are close to us? Our relatives and our families, our marriages, those with whom we work. And this week, how do we have peace more with nature, with the natural world around us, between humans and the earth? And we've been saying that really no peace will come unless we're willing to suffer. We've got to suffer a bit. Anything in life that's valuable requires effort, intentionality, planning, practice. There are so many things we want, but some things are more valuable, and you've got to give up some things to have the gooder, the greater good, the better good. And so too with our relationship with nature. That somehow by Jesus coming to earth, he wants to start remedying the division in the world started by that original sin in the Garden of Eden. In Eden, there was no conflict between humans and the natural world. The world was given to us for our use. It was in harmony between Adam and Eve and the garden and the plants and food and animals and the weather. But as a result of their sin, everything was broken. Their relationship with God, yes, but also their relationship with each other as husband and wife, man and woman, conflict, love, and yet struggle at the same time, but also with the natural world. The disease, and God said, now you're going to have to work hard with the sweat of your brow to cultivate the earth. It's not going to be as easy anymore. There's going to be storms that are weather patterns that harm human beings, disasters, there's going to be droughts, there's going to be hunger. But somehow the coming of Jesus starts to remedy that. In the first reading today from Isaiah, again, he's the great Advent prophet. We've been reading from him each week this season. He says, when the Messiah will come, the desert and the parched land will exult, and they will bloom with abundant flowers, and they will rejoice with song. And all will see the glory of the Lord, the splendor of our God. Even nature will respond somehow to the coming of God to earth. God made nature in the sense that it's a reflection of his goodness. Anything beautiful in nature is a reflection of God. It was made, he thought of it. You can get a glimpse of God in the natural world. The second reading today from St. James uses similar images. St. James says, see how the farmer waits for the precious fruit of the earth, being patient with it until it receives the early and the late rains. You too must be patient. Make your hearts firm, because the coming of the Lord is at hand. Be patient like a field that requires rain in order to grow the crops. And then it goes through the harvest, and then it goes through the dying time, right? Winter begins this week. It's kind of the time when there's nothing growing. But we know beyond that is the spring and a new kind of rebirth. And James says, same with us. Be patient with ourselves, be patient with the spiritual life. It takes time, it takes effort. We seem to make progress, and then we fall back, we fall into sin, we get discouraged. We try to form good habits, and we slide back into bad habits. But there are falls, but then there's times when we get back up. There are good times or bad times. Be patient, persevere. We had our Men of Virtue, our monthly men's group yesterday morning, and the virtue was patience. That's what we talked about with ourselves, with others, and with God. Advent's a time of being patient, right? We want to get our presents. Want to get into the Christmas celebration. Patient, it'll come. The anticipation heightens the celebration. We even use nature at Christmas time, don't we? As part of our decoration. Christmas trees. We kind of take what God has given us and we give it back to him. Lord, this Christmas tree is a way of celebrating all that you have given us and your birth in Bethlehem. We use holly and pine. We use what God has given us, and we kind of give it back to him. In the book of Daniel in the Old Testament, chapter 3, it speaks about this, how everything from God should give God glory. Humans especially, because we're made in his image and likeness, but also the natural world. This is a canticle that priests pray every Sunday morning. Daniel chapter 3. Angels of the Lord, bless the Lord. You heavens, bless the Lord. Sun and moon, all you stars, fire and heat, dew and rain, ice and snow, night and day, lightnings and clouds, bless the Lord. Let the earth bless the Lord. Mountains and hills, everything growing from the earth, seas and rivers, all you water creatures, all you birds of the air, all you beasts, wild and tame, and you sons of men, bless the Lord. May everything give God glory. Everything we do, everything we see is a reminder of him, right? The beauty of nature, the colors, the diversity, gives us a little bit of insight into what God is like, how beautiful he is. We can almost think of his enjoyment in creating like a sunset. I'm going to create a sun, just blazing star of fire. It's going to shine on this planet. We're going to call it Earth. And humans are going to be there. It's not going to be too far away, so it's warm enough. It's not going to be too close, so it's not too hot. I got an idea. Let's make one rotate around the other, spin, so like there's a night and a day, and then we'll see the sun come up in the morning and it'll go down in the evening. Yeah, that'll be really neat. God thought of this. Let's make a rainbow. Yeah, that'd be kind of neat, like this spiral of color in the sky. We won't do it too often, so it'll be a treat when you see it. Yeah, that's kind of neat. Let's make flowers. Let's make puppies. Let's make oceans and water. These are all part of God's thoughts, right? In a sense, gifts to us. As you came into Mass today, you got a little gift, a little prayer card. It's one of the prayers written by St. Francis of Assisi. He saw God in everything. He was in complete harmony with nature. It says even sometimes animals seem to gather around him. There was a town of Gubbio near Assisi, and there was a wolf, a wild wolf, and he actually attacked some people. So Francis went there and confronted the wolf and tamed the wolf. The wolf saw God in Francis, and Francis saw God in the wolf. That harmony that Jesus wants to bring back. We're going to say that prayer together in a few moments about how we can be an instrument of peace like Francis. We harm nature when we're greedy. Sin harms nature. The book of Genesis says that God gave us nature, the natural world, for us to use. We have dominion over it, he says. But as a friend, not as an enemy. We're not against nature. We work with nature. It's God's gift to us. We have to understand the proper relationship, though. Some people get it skewed. We don't exist to help the earth exists to help us. That's important, because some today think the earth is more important than humans on the earth. We're the only creature made in God's image and likeness. The earth is for us. It exists for us. But we have to work with it. We have to respect it, not beat it, not fight it. Treat it with respect and gratitude and pass it on to the next generation so that they can benefit from it too. Think about animals, right? Or how do we relate to animals as human beings? Animals are there, again, they're given to us to help us. We have dominion over animals. They're not human. They're not immortal. But they're good. We have dominion over them, but we have to respect them. It's a sin to mistreat them, even though we eat them. That rhymes. It's a sin to mistreat them, even though we eat them. We don't eat all animals. Some are kind of like our friends, right? Our pets. We even get a sense of companionship somehow from animals, right? They are God's gift to us, but we have to treat them with respect. Pope Francis wrote a letter on the natural world and our human relationship to it called Laudato Si. He wrote it 4 years ago. Laudato Si, which is Latin for praise to you, my Lord, which are the first words of another prayer that St. Francis wrote, the Canticle of the Sun. Laudato Si Dominus, praise to you, Lord. And his letter, it's a long letter, it has two thrusts. First is to the individuals, and second is to societies. We want to focus more this morning on the part related to individuals. What can we do? How do we live as Catholic Christians? The Pope says, look, there are problems of pollution in the world. And in a sense, there have been before. It's just that our dominion over nature increases. We can harness the power more, but we can also pollute it more. Our ability for good or bad has increased. And some say, well, it'll just take care of itself. And in a certain sense, it did before. We say dilution is the solution to pollution, right? If you have pollution, you dilute it in enough water or enough ground, dirt, and it kind of is diluted and it's not dangerous. It's not poison anymore. It's just that we create a lot of pollution now, though. There may not be enough of the natural world to dilute it sometimes. Or we even create some pollution that doesn't biodegrade. We create substances that nature can't decompose. That's kind of a new phenomenon. And should we do that? And how do we deal with it? These are just questions that we face as a human race. And the church has something to say about it. The Pope especially criticizes, though, this kind of culture of excessive consumption. We're always consuming, we're always buying, we're always using up things. This is probably something for us to think about at Christmas time when we buy so many things. Usually for other people, which is generous, but we can be excessive there too. I always get a kick out of these car commercials, you know. Buy your wife a new car for Christmas. Like, who could do that? Buy your teenager a new car. Thanks, Dad. Thanks, St. Nicholas. I'm always like, do people like, wow, that'd be really cool. Thanks, Father Larry. New car, wow. You know, don't buy gifts on credit. Maybe some of us already have. But don't give what you don't have. It's more about being thoughtful about the gift, right? Not how much it costs. As Catholics, we are called to live simply, not because we have to, but because we're supposed to, because Jesus did. And he's the model. He says, you want to have a good and happy life? Live simply. Stuff doesn't make you happy. And it's wasteful. Share stuff with others. There are others who don't have stuff. Maybe not next door to you, but in the world. Take a broader view. And don't let your heart get consumed with things and get busy and stressed pursuing things. Many of us today, we know in the United States, we buy to our limit. And so we have nothing left to give. And if our limit increases, we buy more. And we still have nothing left to give. We'll never have anything to give. We always upgrade and upgrade. Trade in your car. You keep getting these mailings. Do you want to trade in your car? You're like, no, just keep getting these mailings. I'm trying to get 10 years out of it. Then I'll trade it in. We can indulge sometimes, but recognize it as an indulgence and not as the norm. The Pope says, be careful. You know, we can waste food. Some people don't like to eat leftovers. Get over it. It's food. Heat it up. That's what microwaves are for. The seminarian said, Father, you're a good cook. I'm like, I don't cook anything. I just heat up what others have cooked. I can make it look nice and put it in a nice dish. I cook sometimes, but We buy unnecessary things to be trendy and then discard what is lightly used that's no longer trendy. Don't we recognize that this is the gimmick of business? They create trends, so we'll buy stuff. Like, who makes up the trends? Like, there must be like a room in Hollywood where okay, what's the trend for this year? Let's take a vote on it, right? Okay, they're gonna be goofy socks. Okay, what's the trend for this year? Next year too. Okay, we're gonna pants with holes in them. Yeah, that's a neat idea. I saw a woman walking down the street. They weren't like frayed, like they were cut out, holes, jeans. And someone said, well, those are good jeans to wear to mass. I'm like, what? He's like, they're holy jeans. They're trendy now, and like in 2 years, like, why do I have holes in my pants? Pants are usually to keep your knees protected or warm. It's not an awful thing, but recognize what it is. It's a luxury. We're just, don't go along with it because everyone else is doing it. We're Catholic. We should set the trends. We know better. We're wiser. We buy on credit. It's not a good habit. We know we get caught up in that. Maybe in 2020, new year, talk with your family, make a plan. Start cutting back on spending and saving. Pope Francis says, just look at your life. How can you be more intentional? Look at our use of energy. He says, wear a sweater instead of cranking up the heat. Most people in the world do. A little less air conditioning, a little more reusing, a little less throwing away, a little more recycling. So careful about how you drive, a little more carpooling maybe. Some might be able to use public transportation. Pope Francis used to take the bus to work every day in Argentina. Not because he thought it was cool. I think it was just an intentional act of simplicity. It's inconvenient, took a little longer. He did get to interact with the public and probably prayed on the way, prepared his homilies. But he says we live in a throwaway culture, throwing away things. We even throw away people. We disrespect people. People are inconvenient to us. We kind of throw them away. At the beginning of life, the unborn, and at the end of life, the elderly and the sick. This is not a good trend. So we see it individually. We also see it in society. The Pope just points out some of the large-scale pollution we're starting to see, like the problem of plastics. Like there's apparently mounds of plastic floating in the Pacific Ocean. It just kind of congeals because of one of the ocean streams pulls it along. So we said there's some things we're creating that nature can't decompose. Nuclear wastes, food lines, shopping bags, plastic bags. Apparently don't decompose very well. And he says, look, we may not notice it as much in the first world, but the third world, they see it. The poor suffer more. They're impacted more. In fact, sometimes we pay those countries to take our trash, literally. Like electronics are dumped in Africa and Asia because they're pollutants here. They're hard to break down. They're hard to kind of sort through. And so rather than deal with it here, we send it abroad. And the problem of water pollution, that people's water supplies are being polluted. Father Roher, who serves at St. Clement, he's from Peru, and there are some companies that do gold mining in the mountains, but they pollute the water supply in the process, some of the chemicals they use. They go there, they get the gold, and then they leave. Not only did they take the resource out of the country, but they also left pollution behind. So some things maybe that we don't see, but that are happening around the world. Pope Francis is from South America. He's more aware of this. So just that question, are we using nature, working in harmony with it? Are we abusing it? Is it a friend or is it like an opponent? St. Paul speaks of this struggle, the struggle that we have as humans, the struggle that the earth has. He says, creation waits with eager longing in hope, because creation itself will be set free from its bondage to decay. We know that the whole creation has been groaning in travail together until now. Not only creation, but we ourselves groan inwardly as we wait for adoption as sons and the redemption of our bodies. Just the struggle of life. We struggle. It's good to come here every Sunday, every 7 days, get back up, get refreshed, let God kind of encourage you, dust you off, and send you back out for the next week. Harmony within us, mind, body, soul, our struggles, our temptations, our stresses, our anxieties. Struggle with those around us, struggle with the world around us, the natural world. What can we do in the week ahead or in 2020, right? As a family, just kind of have this conversation. A little more self-restraint in our consumption of resources. Be willing to suffer a little bit, say no to yourself, things you could have but you don't need. Don't buy to your limits so you have things to give away to those in need. I remember growing up, we live on a cul-de-sac, and so when it rained, everything would be washed down to the end of our street and it'd be trash. And on Saturday morning, we had to pick it up before we were allowed to go out. Like, it's not my trash, Mom. I know, but we live here. Like, it's based upon where you live. You do what you can, and this is what we do. We pick up the trash. Littering is a sin. Graffiti is a sin. I'm a civil engineer. You see like a new sound wall go up on the highway. It's like, wow, that's very nice. And then someone comes along with spray paint. You're like, whip that boy. We need to have caning back. They don't even think about it, but it affects everybody who drives by. Hopefully most of us don't do that. But just be more aware of what we do as an individual, as families. If we are in a company and we have a position of influence, if we have employees under us, we have more responsibility. If we have any influence in politics, we have more responsibility to take it seriously. How do we care for the world, not just locally, but also internationally? What can we do in our way to treat the nature with respect, be careful about how we pollute? And so my brothers and sisters, in these last weeks of Advent, in the weeks of Christmas, the new year ahead, be willing to do a little bit of suffering, a little self-denial, live a little more intentionally in the way we interact with others, with the world around us. And then in the new year, we will have shalom, a little more peace on earth, a little more peace with the earth. Amen.